Hello again everyone, is Natalie Naturally Ryan, and I am back with another video, and this one is, again, something a little bit different for my channel, but it's kind of cool, and I have been given a really fantastic opportunity to research something and talk about it, and I love researching and talking about things, so here I am. Today's little mini lesson about cultures is about Korean traditional clothing, otherwise known as the hanbok. Now, what is a hanbok? It is a traditional style of clothing in Korea, which has lasted for about 1,600 years. That is a very long time. It includes a chima, durumagi, joki, and majoga. So a skirt, a jacket, pants, overcoat, vest, and an outer jacket. The term hanbok quite literally means Korean clothing when translated, so good there. Characteristics of the hanbok: it is specifically wrapped in the front and it's long and high with very, very vibrant colors. Two pieces of clothing in the style of hanbok, it's very similar to that of nomadic tribes. Traditionally, a women's hanbok consists of a blouse or a jacket and a chima, the full wraparound skirt. And then a men's hanbok is loose-fitting baji, the trousers, and then jogori. And it was an essential part of the men's hanbok to have that kind of baggy, loose pant. The color of the hanbok also symbolized social position and marital status. So you could look at someone's hanbok and kind of, figure out where they were within society and, what life milestones they'd achieved. Bright colors were generally worn by men and children and girls, and muted hues by middle-aged women. The upper classes wore a variety of colors. Contrastingly, commoners were required to wear white, but would dress in pink, light green, and gray and charcoal for special occasions. Now, the history of the hanbok, which is so very interesting and actually incredibly fun to learn about. Early forms of the hanbok can be seen in the art of the Goguryeo tomb. Yeah, we're gonna listen to how we say that. I'm gonna say it right. Google Translate, please help me.
고거요.
The earliest ones can be found in mural paintings dating back to the 5th century. From this time, we already saw the beginnings of the hanbok. There were some basic structure that was already in place. You could really see the gogori, baji, and the chima. Those were already very well established in what made up the hanbok. The basic structure and these basic design features are pretty much the same. They've stayed relatively unchanged, which is really, really interesting because it means that it's kind of been a snapshot of cultural history that has been able to be preserved that we can still see in the present day, and that's pretty rad considering how quickly history and culture throughout history can change. During the Joseon dynasty, the chima adopted a fuller volume, so it got a little bit poofier, while the blouse took on a more tightened and shortened form, and the distinct characteristics of the hanbok of previous centuries, when the chima was rather slim and the gogori baggy and long, reaching well below the waist level. So we went from having something that was pretty baggy, but then with a more slim, kind of tucked in skirt, and then it slowly over time morphed to where the chima was, very tall, as you can see. I'll put in some example pictures where you can see the higher waist and the shorter jacket up here. So the upper class was still wearing a variety of colors. Bright colors were still generally worn by children and girls, and then we kept the whole subdued thing for middle-aged men and women this time, where it used to, basically just be men. Or just be women. And men would still wear brighter colors. The color of the chima showed the wearer's social position and statement. A navy color used to indicate that a woman had sons. Only the royal family would get to wear the gombak printed patterns, or the gold leaf on the bottom of the chima. So, the hanbok is really, really interesting because I feel like there's quite a few people who are pretty, aware of it. People internationally who kind of have an idea of what the hanbok looks like and can recognize that traditional clothing, which is very impressive, especially for America, because there's a lot of times where, due to America being a melting pot of cultures, traditional clothing is not always something that's worn. Many people have really kind of shied away from that, but many people, due to the rise of K-pop and, its presence in K-pop videos, can have a really good idea about what the hanbok was supposed to look like, and have even been exposed to some really, really cool modern interpretations of the hanbok itself. So the idea of cultural diffusion is one that is really, really rad, and it is one that can make the world, globalization, the world can become more connected through it, but you can also lose elements of history through it. So it's kind of a give and take. Cultural diffusion happens in many ways, but something that we can really study is when culture spreads across borders, overseas. Like, something that really emulates and exemplifies cultural diffusion is the spread of name brands globally. Things that were really popular and started in America can suddenly have this wide overseas audience, and people all over the world are wearing the same Nike, Adidas, etc. You can go everywhere and find these similar sorts of things. That's an example of cultural diffusion, where something starts in one area and slowly its span of influence gets larger and larger and larger. However, that does mean that once everyone kind of, grows accustomed to that, gets into all supporting these global brands and that sort of stuff, and this is specifically with clothing, it does mean that generally people will wear traditional clothing less, or they'll only wear it for special occasions, etc. And it kind of loses that element of culture in a sense. It's something that is really, really talked about in the study of human geography, is that sort of, not truthfully assimilation, but that globalization. And it is really, really intriguing to look at. It's especially really, really interesting to look at right now, where K-pop has kind of taken this global stage, and there's fans internationally all over the world, in every single continent. So we are looking at this other sort of form of cultural diffusion through music. And the reason that music is connected to the Hanbok in this sense is that there are many amazing, amazing K-pop artists who have really modernized the Hanbok in a way that is very, very important for their music videos, and can tell a lot about the stories that they're trying to portray through them. Some of the most famous examples, one that everyone would know, is BTS's Idol. Those Hanboks that they wear that were modernized, but still fun and very unique to each person, they were a fantastic example of what to expect in a Hanbok. Some of the other ones that we can look at, a personal favorite of mine is the Hanboks worn by the group Ace in their Favorite Boy Goblin music video. The Hanboks they wear are actually, they're just so beautiful, first of all, but they also tell a story about different Korean folklore through it. The Hanbok is really also used as kind of this storytelling element by them, but it's also just very, very cool because they've modernized it in a way that makes it fit this tone and style of their song while also alluding to that culture. Another great example is Lit by ONEUS, where they have these fantastic hanboks here, very colored, very patterned, just overall really, really cool. And the song itself has quite a few meanings in its lyrics. I encourage you to go and watch DK's explanation on it because it's really good. And then obviously another really, really great example that many people are familiar with is Momoland's Bam. Bam, is it Bam? Bam?
Oh.
Bam. 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 So in Momoland's Bam, this was a music video that I was less familiar with. I don't listen to Momoland, and so I really didn't know more than just the little bits that I had seen, but I did know off the top of my head that they were wearing hanboks in their video, and so I was like, oh, cool, that should be something that I bring up. But it's really cool because they have taken on kind of a traveling the world concept where they have a lot of different outfits for each region that they visit. And so that's part of the reason I wanted to bring it up, because it went along with that whole cultural diffusion thing. So haha, that's a great little inclusion there. How could I forget? One of my favorite examples of the hanbok is in Daechwita by Augusti / Suga from BTS, but he's Augusti in this video and we're gonna respect that. So his hanbok here is really cool because not only does he have this traditional clothing when he is supposed to be the emperor, but Daechwita is actually, the song's name is Daechwita, which means Korean traditional military music. And so it's kind of two separate little bits of culture that are involved really, really, really awesomely in this music video. And then, of course, we have, for a very modern take on a hanbok, we can look at the Blackpink How You Like That? The Shin hanbok, and Shin hanbok means it's literally like a new version of a hanbok, a Shin hanbok, or like a modern new style. I also think that it makes a lot of sense with Blackpink for them, like their concept and their style and just who they are as individuals. I think it's really awesome and it makes a lot of sense. Many of these unique twists on the hanbok has also led to millennials, Gen Z, people who are really involved in K-pop nowadays, those generations have kind of a heightened interest in it, as well as just Korean fashion overall. And so that's kind of cool. Kind of just, you know, it's not every day where traditional clothing from a country is the thing that people are talking about, so that's fun. Well, I hope that you enjoyed your little history lesson with me, and I hope that you check out my other videos that are not necessarily about Korean history, but are about K-pop. I will link them here. There will be cards floating about. Please click on one. And don't be afraid to follow me on Instagram at GNATTRBUG, which is my Instagram handle, Natterbug. I will have all of my links in the bio to all the things I do, to my podcast, my Instagram, to all that jazz. So feel free to go give it a look. I would very much appreciate it. Thank you so much to everyone watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.